Hi, everyone. This is Monica,
And this is Johnny.
and we're going to role play two clients, both with sexual abuse trauma. And I'll start off with role playing my client. This mock client was young, very young, when she had her first trauma. She was 9 years old, and has other trauma too. Like her father unfortunately passed away when she was 9, and she don't like. So that was her first experience with trauma, was her father's death. Then unfortunately her mother also has mental abuse, so or mental health issues. So that impacted her because her mother has bipolar disorder, and um, she just kind of spiraled after the father's death, and she engaged in some erratic behavior with dating multiple men. And the first man that she dated also had some issues, and he in turn abused the client. I'm going to call her Mary. And it happened when she, very not long after her father's death, about 6 months later. And this man, her mother's boyfriend, kind of groped and did some other inappropriate sexual things. And finally, her mother caught it, and it led to his arrest and conviction and things like that. So, luckily that was rectified, but her teenage years were very traumatic, and there's a lot of turmoil for her mother. And she was very angry, so her trauma really manifested in like anger towards her mother, and her just distrust of men, many men in her life. I think she only trusted one man in her life, at the time that she came in for therapy. And so these are just two really big things in her life. Was the anger, and mostly directed towards her mother, and her distrust of man and her relationships in general with people. So that's kind of her backstory in a gist, and how her trauma kind of manifests. So I'll be the client here, Mary, and John will be my therapist.
Hi, Mary. Thank you again for coming to see me. I admire your courage for each week that you come back to address getting better. How's everything been going this week?
Pretty good. Yeah, thank you so much. I've been really getting a lot of help from our sessions, and it's been going okay. I'm fighting with my mom a little bit, and I get so angry at her, and I've been kind of seeing a guy at my school,
Okay.
and I don't know how that's going very well, but that's probably been my week pretty much.
Okay. And last week we were talking a little bit, and I know that in the past we've talked about this intermittent explosive, and then the PTSD, and then some of the issues surrounding mom's boyfriend, and how that's manifested into conflict into a lot of your relationships. So, I was thinking about the explosive, how sometimes you react violently and throw things and yell and what have you. And I was thinking that might be a symptom of some of your unresolved sexual trauma.
Hmm.
It may be that your arousal system is so ready, the best way I could put it. What we call the fight or flight, and this hyperarousal might be conditioned to the event itself. Before we get back into it, last week we did this similar, so I wanted to once again, this always has to be a safe and secure place. So I want to emphasize the importance of safety first. Do you feel safe right now?
Yes, I do.
And I think last week we came up with a safe word. I believe it was blue.
Hmm.
Do you
Blue.
want to do you want to use that one again?
Sure.
Okay, and last week you held up the peace sign as in that's too much. Is that one, or do you want to do a stop? What would feel comfortable?
Yeah, I like the stop sign. That works.
And I want to admire you last week. You were able to you break often throughout our session when it started to get too much. So I want to really bring to acknowledgement how you were able to regulate your emotions in session with me, which shows a lot of progress. I know you want to bring these skills outside. So the more we do it here, the more you'll be able to do it there. Um, Last week when we were discussing, you mentioned how you were confused because you felt like you were aroused while the abuse from your mother's boyfriend was happening. You still have questions about that?
I think it's just confusing because I feel like I shouldn't have felt that way, but I did. And I just met this guy at school, and I don't quite know how to regulate myself with that person.
Okay. So now when we're talking about the biology of a woman or man, but with you with a woman, your body will react in a biological fashion. So when we talk about vaginal lubrication or feeling wet or however you want to say it, feeling aroused, sometimes that happens as just a biological response and it has nothing to do with consent. So there's many women that have been also sexually assaulted and or raped that aroused through it. And so it's led to confusion as to, did I want that? Did I ask for it? And I just need to emphasize that the only consent that you will ever be able to give is your verbal consent. Did you give verbal consent?
With the guy I met, yeah, I feel like that with him, I felt more consensual in that relationship.
Okay. And in the past, you didn't though.
Right.
Okay. So
So that makes sense to me.
yeah, I just don't want you. The confusion sometimes lies within the, wow, my body said yes, but my mind and everything else said no. Let you know that your biological response system is not your um, affirmation that yes, I want this. Okay, and so going forward, just remember your words are your consent, not sometimes your body is not your consent. Your words are. Okay.
Yes, that makes sense. Thanks for explaining it to me that way.
Absolutely. I think once you start to understand what's going on, then we are able to start to process some of the feelings that are going inside. And how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling okay. I feel like I'm starting to feel a little like anxiety, but I feel like it's getting better though. After you explained it to me that way.
Okay. Well, I really, really want to thank you again for coming in. It's been really fantastic working with you. I just want to acknowledge all the progress I see. Continue to use those. Do you remember when we were doing that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 awareness technique? We're using your sight and sound and touch and all of your senses. Still want you to utilize that, or even kind of turn your attention to just some of your visual cues when you start to feel some of those anger feelings towards your mother. You are very capable of grounding yourself to once you're mindful of the moment, you don't act so impulsively. Okay.
Yeah, I think I will continue to practice the grounding technique. I think that's been really helpful for me with my anger, especially.
Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now. All right. So for now we will switch roles. My client, I forget what Liam. Liam is my mock client. Liam comes into treatment to see Monica is his primary therapist. He's come in for substance use disorder, and he also, so during his addiction, he would go to apps like Grindr or where gay men meet, and he would meet up with gay men, and because he would find out if they had drugs, go to their houses, um, do the drugs, and then leave without ever having to perform any type of sexual act. And there was a time where things didn't go so well, and there were other men there, and it was in a gated community, and he was sexually assaulted by three men, and so now he has this feeling that he's tainted, he's worthless, he's never going to find a woman, and it's really contingent on him remaining sober because he doesn't think he's worthwhile. He also has these feelings that he was also aroused during the encounter, so he questions his sexuality, even though he states he is heterosexual.
Okay. Hi, Liam. How are you today?
I'm okay.
Good. Thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it. You've been doing so well.
Yeah.
How have you been feeling this week?
I want to get better. I just feel like I'm, I think, as I told you, I just feel like I'm tainted. I don't know how anyone can love me. Like, I told you, but I don't ever want to tell anyone else what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in our past therapy sessions, we've been using the behavioral therapy, and that seemed to be really helping you with thinking about your relationships and kind of those irrational thoughts around perpetrators versus people we can have safe relationships with. So have there been any like good relationships that you have had this week with anybody, like any positive interactions with anybody?
Yeah, there's a new guy arrived last night. He's my new roommate, and he seems really cool. But I think it's because the other guys haven't told him what happened. I feel like the other guys in the group look at me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sorry that you feel that way as well. That must be really hard and stressful when you meet new people.
I bond more with women because I feel like they understand. Like assault. What? I don't know. That sounds weird. I don't know. I just feel like
not at all.
But then, I don't think that any woman's gonna like me because I think I'm gay or something.
Why do you feel like you feel more comfortable around women? How do you feel when you're around women?
Much more safe, much more accepting. I feel like they're more compassionate. So if I do talk about anything, I don't feel as judged by them. And it's not all men. So I don't feel judgment, but then like sometimes when they're huddled in a corner, I feel like they're talking about.
What do you feel like they're saying about you?
I don't know. I don't know, just saying I'm a faggot or something.
Do you think it's possible that they might not be talking about you at all? They could be talking about something else?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could think about that too. Maybe it might be something that they're not talking about you at all, and maybe they're talking about something else. And maybe that would help you feel more positively about yourself as well if you keep thinking about the more rational thought processes, because I think what your trauma, it caused, your brain to really respond in a way that you have those irrational thoughts because of the severe anxiety and stress that brought your brain to. And I think your flight and your fight response really sets off when you come into contact with new, especially men, it seems like, from that traumatic experience that you had.
I think even just through listening to you, I think maybe it's like groups of men that freak me
Hmm.
or that I don't feel safe with.
Hmm. Have you used any of the guided imagery techniques that we were practicing before? Has that
Yeah,
worked for you?
yeah. I mean, I love when I get that. You know, we went to Avalon, which is where I vacationed as a kid, and I do like that. I can always smell the ocean and I taste the
Hmm.
mangoes. God, what good pizza that is! And no, that's oh yeah, I can at times, and other times I just forget.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's easy to forget the coping mechanisms when that fight and flight response gets sets off.
Mhm.
I know that especially happens too when you hear loud noises, and those are so unpredictable. You
Yeah,
know, so I'm sure that's so hard to remember those skills when that happens so suddenly.
yeah.
But
No,
I think you're doing really well with practicing those skills, and I
thank you.
think that could really help you. I use the beach too when I think about guided imagery.
Really?
Yeah,
Where did you go to the beach?
I usually go to Cape May. I actually am planning to go there soon, so I know I totally use that as a skill when I'm feeling upset. So
Huh?
I really think that that could help you out a lot.
That's wild. You're like 4 towns away from me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I think we should do that for keep practicing that for future sessions and keep talking about your relationships and how we can better, help you form more healthy and safe relationships, especially with men.
at least sounds awesome.
Do you have any questions?
uh, you think I'm gonna get better?
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. There's always hope, right? Yeah, I think as long as you keep practicing those skills, and I think we're making really great progress. And
Thanks.
we'll just keep doing that homework, and
I know
I
I don't
think
like
you're,
so much, but I know I do start to feel better or more. I feel accomplished after I do it. You know, I don't want to do it. Kind of like when I don't want to go to the gym, but I go. I feel great right afterwards, and I don't really like it.
yeah, yeah. And it's a marathon, not a race, right? So you'll definitely get there. It'll just take time, of course.
Thank,
Thanks for coming in, Liam.
thank you very much.
Sure.